Hello and welcome to World of Sports, your roundup of all the weekend's global sporting action. I am your host, Joshua Barnes. On the show tonight, England beat Spain on penalties to retain the UEFA Women's European Championship, avenging defeats against the same opponents in the World Cup final 2 years ago. A resilient India bat out the fifth day to claim a draw against England at Old Trafford, leaving the series alive with one game still to play. Oscar Piastri extends his lead in the F1 Championship standings following a controlled drive at Spa after overtaking his teammate Lando Norris in the opening stages. And Tadej Pogačar claims his fourth Tour de France title, but misses out on a historic stage win as rain falls in Paris. But we start this week with cricket, and India's Test side have held firm on day 5 at Old Trafford to draw the fourth Test and keep the series alive. Skipper Shubman Gill struck a resilient 103 with Washington Sundar and Ravindra Jadeja both unbeaten on centuries, guiding India to safety after a shaky start. England's Ben Stokes battled through injury to remove KL Rahul and almost sparked a final day collapse, but his efforts fell short. Stokes' England side had looked on top after scoring a mammoth 669 in their first and only batting innings. But with ball in hand, England's bowlers couldn't break through Indian resilience. The series now heads to a fiery decider at the Oval, with India knowing only a win will stop England lifting the Anderson-Tendulkar trophy. Well, joining us live to discuss this thrilling, exciting, but ultimately drawing Test match is Sunil Yashkalra, founder of the Indian Sports Fan, joining us live. Thank you so much, Sunil, for taking the time to speak with us. Of course, a huge game here. Not just this Test match, but of course the series as a whole has been thrilling. It's ebbed and flowed, going one way and then the other. Sunil, what are your thoughts, firstly, on the results and India's resilience? Well, we just wait for Sunil to join us. But of course, this Test match comes in the wake of 3 thrilling games. India, of course, laying claim to 1 victory, England with 2. But arguably, India have been the best side throughout the first 3 games. England looks in control in this match. They were leading, of course, going into India's second innings by a huge total. Nearly 300 runs England were leading by. But India showing true resilience, batting out 5 sessions in full and a short part of the 4th morning, holding on 3 centurions, helping India over the line for the loss of just 4 wickets. Shubman Gill, new Indian captain, new Test captain, leading his team from the front with a strong century, another century for him in this contest. But it wasn't a win, and this leaves the 5th and final game at the Oval in London, a pivotal moment. England know a draw or a win, and they take the Anderson-Tendulkar trophy. But for India, they know a win for them means that both sides will be lifting the trophy together after a drawn series. 2-1 going into this final game, and of course we will bring you all of those updates next week as we get them. We do just wait for Sunil. As we do, of course, the state of Test cricket is something that has been spoken about. Franchises being set up across the globe, dominance in many countries for franchise cricket in terms of the amount of money that players can earn, questions being raised about whether Test cricket still has a part to play in the cricketing calendar. So much fixture congestion, players having to decide between playing for their national team or getting a big payday on the international stage in shorter formats of the game. But this series is showing why Test cricket is here to stay and still something that every player wants to be a part of. England, led by Ben Stokes, and Shubman Gill, of course, leading India in his first series. Sunil, thank you for rejoining us. We've gone through some of the details, but I really want your opinion here on how you think this game pivoted back towards India. Of course, England, nearly 700 runs in their first innings, but the resilience that this batting order and this batting lineup showed from India, a truly impressive performance in the face of potential defeat.
I think it's a very different test match when you look at it in terms of the number of runs scored, but the manner it was scored was quite different because they said bye-bye to pass ball. And this is only the second test match where the matches did not have any kind of result thus far. Second, but more importantly, I think there was a time when the bowlers are batting well and the bowlers are not bowling well at all. So this is a very different team altogether that India has come into, got it into England. Because you must realize, if you need to win a test match, you need to win 20, you've got to take 20 wickets. And if you take 20 wickets, the match is done. Unfortunately, India bowled really well, but I think batted really well, but the bowling was really a miss. And that's where things changed up. Yeah.
Yes, Sunil, I want to pick up on that. Of course, Jofra Archer coming into the side last time out, playing once again. Of course, this England attack does sometimes look slightly toothless. If you take Archer out, definitely. And with Ben Stokes being the standout bowler in India's first batting innings, do you think that some changes need to be made by Brendan McCullum and his team, given that a lot of these players have played in all four tests? We look at Chris Wokes, of course, who's been an ever-present. Also, Ben Stokes bowling the amount that he has. Who do you think could come in for England to provide some more bite in an attack that did look toothless?
Well, if you look at it, England is going full power because they've got the best bowling attack. They've even got Jofra Archer after 4 years. But the bad part is India doesn't have the resilience that they were looking at, especially at the top of the order. Players are getting runs, but those runs are inconsequential if you don't win the matches. If you win the matches, things are different. But yeah, when you don't have that, then things become slightly changed. Baz McCullum, on the other hand, is playing his full strength team, whether it's batting, bowling. Your Duckett is playing really well, and the others are not so great. But at the same time, India is missing the wrist spinner. Here, it's apples to apples. India, England are at par with each other. But when it comes to a wrist spinner, there's a lot of difference. Of course, with the absence of Rishabh Pant, things will really look into a different trajectory altogether. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And Sunil, before we do let you go, one final game to decide this series. It's either a draw or England walk away with the series. India know they need to win. At what point do you think this is captain versus captain? Both at different ends of their captaincy career. Ben Stokes has been with this team through the Bazball revolution. Shubman Gill playing his first series as Indian Test captain. How do those two line up against each other, given that they've both been the star men for their countries in this series as well?
Well, Ben Stokes has to be in the thick of the action because he's the best man leading the side from England. But at the same time, when you look at Shubman Gill, he may be the Lion King, but he's still the cub at that point of time because he's taking a big legacy of Rohit Sharma, and you've got to look at Virat Kohli. But at the same time, Shubman Gill needs to take his own chances, needs to take his own action, and at the same time, he's got to now come out of his skin and take calls which he thinks are on his own, rather than wait for someone else to take those calls. Yes, especially when the draw. It was a very contentious issue of the draw, where would you allow the batsman to score a century, or would you just call it a draw? Of course, if it was Shubman Gill's call, things would have been absolutely different.
Yes, absolutely, Sunil. I do hope, of course, that England do manage to get a result, but we enjoy the cricket that is being played. And thank you so much for joining us to detail that fourth test. And we now look ahead to the Oval. Thank you for your time, Sunil.
Thank you.
Well, we move on now and away from cricket to Formula One, where McLaren's intra-team title race just got tighter, with Oscar Piastri winning in Belgium and pulling 16 points clear of teammate Lando Norris. Piastri's sixth win of the season came after a clever move through Eau Rouge at Spa, while Norris couldn't capitalise from pole after a safety car start due to heavy rainfall. Team principal Andrea Stella praised both drivers, calling their battle one of champion-level racing and saying that the title will be decided by execution and precision. With Verstappen now 81 points behind, the McLaren duo looks set to fight it out till the end with 11 races to go. Well, I welcome Naren Hawani, an F1 content creator, on the programme to discuss this battle between the two papaya F1 cars. We also have the issue around Max Verstappen. But Naren, thank you ever so much for taking the time to join us. How are you today? Well, we wait for Naren, but of course this Formula One series, the last before some big sweeping technical changes, and it's an unknown which car will be on top. So this, for the two McLaren drivers, could potentially be the only chance that they get in recent times, or in a small period of time, to win this title. Both cars fast, both drivers fast, but Piastri currently ahead. Max Verstappen is the closest challenger to the two McLaren drivers, but at this point he is some way off, over 3 race wins away, and that's barring both McLaren drivers not scoring points. But Verstappen did win the sprint race, and that is something that must be discussed. Of course, it's the first race for Red Bull without their long-term team principal and CEO, Christian Horner, who after 20 years stepped aside, and Laurent Mekies taking over. A victory in some form for this Red Bull team at the sprint race, but in the race itself he wasn't able to finish higher than fourth. Another big talking point from this race at Spa, Lewis Hamilton coming from a pit lane start up into the points, well into the points, and showing his skill driving in the rain. British drivers, of course, growing up with rainy conditions, I myself know how difficult it can be in terms of just driving on roads in the rain, but British drivers know how to get it done from their days karting in sometimes torrential rain, and that's what it was at Spa. A race start that was delayed, and then a rolling start behind the safety car after the water had stopped in order to try and clear some off the track. Of course, safety in Formula One now is such a big talking point, and something that all of the drivers are happy is moving in the right direction. But this title race promises to go down to the wire. Just 16 points separating the two McLaren drivers. If Norris had have won and Piastri finished second, that gap would have been at just 2 points. And of course, this heading down the line could go to the wire. Seasons in the past being decided on the final race of the season. We look ahead potentially to a similar situation. It is all to play for, both papaya cars in a position where they could move forward and could claim the title. It's close, and the superiority is not there from either driver. Both winning races this season, both making progress and both moving forwards. But it's the McLarens to beat, and everyone else is watching them from a distance. We will, of course, bring you all the updates from the rest of the F1 season here on World of Sports as those races come by. Well, we move away now from F1 and head to football. And it was revenge, redemption and a historic repeat for the Lionesses in Basel, Switzerland, England have won the Women's Euros 2025, edging past Spain 3-1 on penalties as the final finished a 1-1 draw after extra time. Mariona Caldente put Spain ahead in the first half, but Alessia Russo's equaliser brought England back into the match. Chloe Kelly, the super sub once again, scored the decisive spot kick after Spain missed 3 of their penalties, including one by Ballon d'Or winner Aitana Bonmati. Manager Serena Weigmann now claims a 3rd straight Euro title, confirming her legendary status in women's football. A shootout win, payback after heartbreak in the World Cup final 2 years ago against the same opposition, and another crowning moment for Europe's reigning champions. Well, let's now have a listen into what some of the England fans had to say celebrating that penalty shootout victory. It's not heartbreak for England, it was victory after a 3-1 shootout. Let's now listen to those England fans who were watching the game from the United Kingdom.
Unbelievable, back-to-back European champions, like, they're amazing. Couldn't honestly wish for more. This team, insane. You gotta have the belief it's not been an easy road, but they always found a way to win. And look what they absolutely amazing. All tournament we've proved why we can do it, and again we showed up why we mattered. We're absolutely buzzing. How are you feeling, Shez?
I can't even speak. I've been crying, like the emotion. Like I was there at Wembley when we won it a couple of years ago. Unbelievable. Like so proud of the girls. Like to beat Spain as well. Do you know what I mean? They're a massive team. So yeah. So.
Well, yes. Let's now have a look and break down the Lionesses' road to retaining the Euros once again. We'll start off, of course, with images of their full-time victory, lifting the trophy for a second time in the space of 3 years. We'll now have a look at their first game, and this was the first time that England had tasted defeat in a Euros tournament for a long while, losing 2-1 to France. A late goal from Kira Walsh was not enough to overcome 2 first-half goals from France, who many believe could challenge in this tournament, eventually losing to Germany themselves in another penalty shootout. But after facing defeat in the first game, England bounced back, beating Netherlands 4-0, a convincing victory and a reset after that defeat first game out. The Lionesses then played their final game, their final group stage game of Group D, where they faced up against Wales, and we'll show you that now. A very convincing win, 6-1 against local rivals Wales, goal scorers from all over the pitch, and it set up England for a quarter-final against their opponents, Sweden. And this was a game where England showed their resilience. 2 goals down within the first half. Lucy Bronze then scoring around 10 minutes away from the end of the game. Mary Adjumang, who was named the young player of the tournament, then scoring a few minutes later, and it went to penalties. We've moved slightly early, but we'll head now to the semi-final, where England defeated Italy. Again, another comeback. Look at that, Italy scoring first, a theme that has been throughout this tournament for England. A 96th minute goal for Mary Adjumang, saving England from defeat, bringing defeat from the grips back to the pitch. And Chloe Kelly, with a minute of extra time to go, scoring another late winner for England. And then it went from England versus Italy in the semis to the game that we just told you about, England versus Spain. Let's just show you that on the screen now. Well, we're missing that, but as you know, we've said it already, England won, Spain won after normal time, goalless in extra time, and a 3-1 penalty victory for England against Spain. That was the breakdown. Let's now have a look at some of the other sporting news from across the world. And we start in cycling, as Tadej Pogačar sealed his 4th Tour de France title in Paris, conquering a rain-slick final stage on Montmartre's cobbles. though Wout van Aert took the final sprint. Pogačar had already secured overall victory, his fourth since 2020, finishing over 4 minutes ahead of rivals Jonas Vingegaard and others. The Slovenian adds another crown to his incredible 2024 season, having already won the Giro d'Italia, the World Championships and several classics. Vingegaard placed second, but questions loom over his team's unity and strategy after another defeat to Pogačar's dominance. From cycling now to rugby, and Hugo Keenan scored a dramatic last-minute try as the British and Irish Lions staged a stunning comeback to beat Australia 31-26 at the MCG and seal the Test series. It was a stunning comeback as the Lions were down 23 points to 5 in the first half, but the Lions roared back with tries from Tom Curry, Jones and Tyke Byrne before Hugo Keenan's match winner was cleared by the TMO. In front of 90,000 fans, the Lions win their first 2 tests of a series for the first time since 1997. From rugby to the hockey, and Luke Littler has completed darts' triple crown at the age of just 18, defeating James Wade 18 legs to 13 to win the World Match Play in Blackpool. He joins legends like Phil Taylor and Michael van Gerwen as the 5th ever to win the Match Play Premier League and World Championship. Littler now eyes the world #1 spot after pocketing a massive £200,000 and the Phil Taylor Trophy. Golf had its breakouts and dominant moments this weekend. 21-year-old Lottie Woad won the Women's Scottish Open in her first LPGA start after turning pro, holding off Hyo-Joo Kim with calm brilliance. Meanwhile, on the men's tour, Joaquin Niemann claimed his 5th LIV title of the year, winning the UK leg by 3 strokes over Bubba Watson. Woad and Niemann are both rewriting what's possible in their games, one with a dream debut and the other with unstoppable form. And finishing off this week with tennis, it was a statement weekend as Leylah Fernandez stormed to her first ever WTA 500 title, thrashing Anna Kalinskaya in straight sets in Washington. On the men's side, Alex de Minaur pulled off a dramatic comeback, saving 3 match points to beat Davidovich Fokina in a thrilling match. With Montreal and the US Open approaching, both champions now carry major momentum. Well, that is all we have time for this week, but stay tuned, same time next Monday for all of your further updates from across the sporting world. Thank you.